everyone. And welcome to Women in Data Weekly webinar. My name is Rajvi Mehta and I am the Regional Sponsorship Lead for Women in Data. Today we'll be talking about creating your own brand and presenting your true self at work. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Women in Data is a global nonprofit with a mission to increase diversity in the field of data and tech. We achieve our mission by providing education and organizing symposiums at a local chapter level. Our chapters hold quarterly symposiums, which provide enlightening talks, expert panels, and networking opportunities. Currently, we have 19 chapters all over the world, including 4 international chapters. As the world heals from the virus that we are fighting, we wanted to provide support to our community by offering free webinar series on topics ranging from self-branding, building an abundance mindset, and everything that you need to learn about being successful in the data career. Today, we have an expert in self-branding amongst us. Our speaker today is Precious Kingdom. She holds 10 years of on-the-job experience as a data analyst with a business analytics certification. She is getting her master's degree in data analytics in August 2020. She joined the Air Force as data analyst. It was her job to assist Air Force managers and executives in life-changing decisions by producing reliable and honest data interpretation using classified government data. She has also worked with a small data analytics team at Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida. Today, she'll be talking about the importance of successfully creating your own brand at work and what it means to be a successful data scientist. Precious, thank you so much for helping Women in Data move our mission forward. We are grateful to have an expert like you, and I'm really excited to start our conversation.
Thank you.
So first of all, we have a packed schedule ahead of us. I have a few questions that our members have asked, as well as some of the questions that I personally wanted them to be answered. So let's get started with just by asking you the most basic question. Yeah. How do you define a perfect role in today's day and age?
So for me, a perfect role has everything to do with personal branding and self-discovery. So I know you may hear a lot like data scientist. It's like the sexiest job of the 21st century, or like data, and it's like, that's great. But also remember that every job and every role is going to have its days. So if you can find a role that fits your personality, let's say the perfect team, or maybe you're more or introverted, so you like working on your own. So if you're going to work with the team and that's what you like, it's an understanding that now you have support, you have people that you can go to if you have a problem or get stuck on a code. You have kind of a collective brain. While if you're more introverted and you like to work in relaxed environments, you're going to rely a lot more on YouTube, Stack Overflow, Zoom, and just kind of finding those resources on your own. And it's about whatever you're most comfortable with, as well as personally, right? And then as well as understanding what code do you like, if it's necessary for you to know code. And there's 3 different types of data scientists. So there's one, a business intelligence type data scientist, where it's more so reporting and looking for solutions for revenue for businesses. They use SQL, R, Python, Tableau, Power BI. And then if you're more of a research data scientist, then you're using more machine learning tools like R and Python and Java. And then if you're a generalist, you kind of do all 3 or all 2, plus a little bit more basic statistics and different things like that. So me personally, I don't like Python. I like R, and it's just a personal preference. So the perfect role for me would be relaxed, and where I use my comfort level of coding skills and what I actually like. That way, when I go to work, it's not like a headache every day, and I'm in a flow and I'm confident in what I'm doing. So that's kind of how you want to make sure you learn yourself, know yourself, how you work best and your best environments to be productive. And then that's how you can plan your perfect role from there.
So, I mean, talking from personal experience, first of all, let me just say I am an R Studio fan as well. I have R was the first language that I started using during my masters, and I have been in love ever since with that
Yes.
specific language. Currently, I'm learning a little bit of more Python because I just learned that AWS works in Python only, and there's like some difficulties in R Studio. So I'm learning a new language, but my
Yes.
first love will always be R Studio for sure.
Mhm.
So coming back to your point about the perfect job role, someone who is just graduating from their undergrad program, or someone who has no job experience prior to this current environment that we are in, how do you explain a perfect job to them? I mean, when I remember when I was first looking for a job, I didn't really have a definition in my head. Like, I didn't really aim for a specific role. I was looking for everything, right? So,
Yes.
what kind of self journey should a person go through to just understand the different roles that are there in data currently?
So I'll give a little insight on how I figured it out for me, and then maybe try to apply that. So for me, I've been an analyst in the Air Force, in the government, where my primary focus was aviation and aircraft. I don't really like aviation and aircraft, you know? So then I got out, and I began focusing on business and business intelligence, and I love it. And I'm also in education, and I love that too. So it's like, what I would do is sit back before throwing 100 resumes at LinkedIn applications. What do you like? Do you like the beauty industry? Do you like business? Do you like cars? Do you like food? You know what I mean? What are you into? And then find businesses or corporations or companies that, every day that you go to work, you'll be working on something that you actually like. Maybe you're into finance and accounting, and so you'll go work for a bank, or different things like that. Just finding your personal interests in an industry, and then saying, okay, literally I can apply data analytics to almost everything at this point. So what do I actually want to apply it to? Or what am I curious about? What am I interested in? Those type of questions.
That's a good point. I mean, when people ask me where they should start from, I always suggest the same thing. Like, it's important to look at the industry that you're interested in, and then, data can fit anywhere and everywhere, because everyone has data and they want to use it. So we will be valuable throughout for a long, long period of time. So coming back to your current job, right? You
Mhm.
are currently working for the Air Force. That means that there is a lot of responsibility and
Not currently. No,
oh,
no,
I'm
no, not
sorry.
currently.
Sorry. Okay.
I
My
did 7 years.
so but I think the question still holds. So,
Hmm.
if you're still, if when you're working in such an environment where credibility is super important, and I just not to put more pressure, but there's a lot of it that is dependent on the work that you do.
Hmm.
How do you, or how would anyone who's working in such high stressful situation, how should they overcome stress and self doubt?
So you have to build a partnership between yourself and the people who are creating your database. Like, your database manager is your best friend. So if you're dealing with like high privacy information, you're gonna want to know like exactly what's going on in your database, so that you don't make any mistakes, so that you are always giving accurate information, because they will be upset, and they are upset. They do notice when things are off wrong by a number or a half a point. You know what I mean? So it's like, I relied on my database manager a lot to make sure I was getting the correct data from the correct place, and that I understood how to use the data, and making sure I understand how my users are using the data. It is very important to making sure it's protected, and only the right people are receiving the right information.
So I think what you're saying is that you are specifically in a situation where you're in between the business user who is going to use the data and someone who is so close to the data that they get too technical. So you have to be the
Yeah,
translator in between. I agree.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's important. And how do you think personal branding has benefited you in your career?
So, personal branding for me is understanding what I bring to the table, understanding my strengths. So, my strengths on my team is small. I have one other data analyst, like three database managers. They're all over the place, AWS, all over, a lot of cloud, and then my data director. So, if we're all personal branded in our specific skills, we can all work as a team without competition. So, personal branding will let everybody know what you're good at. I'm good at R. I'm good at Tableau. I'm good at working with users and customer service. You know what I mean? While um, my coworker may be an expert times 10 in SQL. You know what I mean? So I know who to go to for each thing, and everybody knows who to come to for what they need from me. And that's just because I've personally branded myself. I have headshots that I use in any communication that I use with my users or even my teammates. And I just make myself known for certain skills because I'm comfortable. Not because I'm comfortable and I want to stay comfortable, but because I know I can excel in whatever they're going to ask me to do because I'm their go-to person. So basically, to wrap that all up, your personal branding will make you a go-to person in your expertise.
So, someone who has never done personal branding or never heard that specific term in their life, but they are working in data for so long, what is there a specific process that you would recommend that they should follow?
I do. I would recommend having updated headshots every 12 to 24 months, um, and also having a lifestyle headshot that's not so professional that you can use to continue to personally brand yourself as an expert through maybe speaking engagements or training engagements where you may not want to look so stuffy. You want to, be presentable or engaging or personable. So also have a lifestyle photo, also, include, this is important, when building your resumes, including a Word and a PDF version, because usually recruiters are going to come back once you send that PDF version that you made so beautiful and pretty. They're going to come back and say, hey, can you just put that in a Word file? But at least your beautiful PDF got them to remember you and think of you. So now you just have to put that all into a Word file. So go ahead and do that. And then also make a 60-second video that's an overview of your resume so that when the recruiter does recontact you or contact you, you can go ahead and send that information over. On top of that, I recommend going on Kaggle, finding again a data set that you're interested in, makeup, shopping, beauty, retail, whatever is going to keep you in that data set, and build some models, build some visualizations, and save all of those projects that you've done with a clean overview as if you were at work. Like go from point A to point B, have the impact of the project and everything all spelled out. That way you're on point when a recruiter contacts you. That's your whole personal branding right there. Um, don't be afraid to create training videos about even the simplest thing that you learned, like creating a pivot table in Excel or something like that. Somebody else doesn't know how to do that. So even those small videos can go into your portfolio and can be used to promote you and set you apart from anyone else.
So you're saying that exploit social media in a way that has never been exploited before, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I have two follow-up questions to what you just said. The first one is regarding the resume. I know personally I have heard so many different rules around resume. There should be one page resume. There should be more than one page depending on what kind of experiences you've had. What is the real answer here?
One page and only positions related to data analytics only. If you don't have anything, you're starting out new, that portfolio, that video of your own projects, and you clearly showing the impact and that you understand the algorithm or whatever method you're using, whether it's so any kind of association or classification, whatever you're using, you just have to make sure it's clearly explained that you understand the model, you understand how to use the model, and that you understand the impact of what your project did. That's almost like you being on a job, like you've done it on your own. You actually took the initiative to do it on your own from the beginning to the end. And if you want to really stand out, also add some project management to your resume and show that you can actually manage an entire project from beginning to end.
That's that's super important. I feel like your resume should be a reflection of what you have done in the past and also what you're aiming to get done in the future as well.
Yes.
That's important. And my second question was around the videos and the content that you said. Is there a specific platform that that our members should aim for? Just or should you upload things on YouTube, or is it Instagram? What's the story there?
For machine learning and data analytics, people are wanting to learn. It's more of a, there's still a learning curve. They either want to learn how to use it or they want to learn a skill to use it. So YouTube and videos on YouTube are always great for that. However, it's a bit saturated. So Instagram is good as well as LinkedIn. I actually don't use YouTube as much. I have some YouTube videos, but I use Instagram and LinkedIn all the time. Yes. So it's kind of like you you can also just include your own videos that you haven't shared necessarily to everybody, but that you only share to recruiters, and that's going to be kind of a different tone than a video that you would create if you were training someone into coding, or even if you were introducing data analytics to a business owner. There's a different language that would be in those videos. So just have the ones on hand, 60 seconds. This is who I am, what I can do, how I can help your industry. And then have others where you can kind of network with it and grow your network and grow your own crowd, like on Instagram and stuff like that.
That's important. So I think this is more around people who are looking for a job or who are applying for a job interview. What recommendation you have for someone who is already working in their job in their industry? How is personal branding important for them, and what they should be thinking about?
So always think about your next position. Are you able to go any further? Is there a data director position at your job, or is it kind of like I'm a data analyst or either a database management and then that's it? So if you want to excel and there's no way to excel because your data team is so small, then your personal branding has to be kind of like a service, presenting yourself as a service. If you're in a job where you want to build and grow in your profession, then you want to present yourself as a leader. So it's like, what can you do for the team? How can you train the whole team on something? How can you get the whole entire team to the next step? And that's gonna include a lot of learning how to be a leader, which is very important to personal branding, because people lead differently and they lead based on who they are, how they grew up, what their environment was like, how hard was it for them to get to where they are is probably how hard they're going to make it for you to get to where you are. So just understand what type of leader you want to be, and then brand yourself as a leader. Never say no to an opportunity. Don't just brand yourself as the leader, but like do the leadership, and then it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of just going to flow into place.
Yep. So no opportunity is a small opportunity. Everything that comes is there to take you to the next level. That's
Yes.
that's an important lesson. I think people should be learning that. I feel like there is always some hesitation on the kind of jobs or the kind of opportunities people get. That it might be, oh, I'm too skilled, over skilled for the specific job, or I'm underskilled for the specific job. And I think that's where that self doubt, that is more specific to women or people who consider themselves as a minority.
Yes.
So there, how do you recommend that, to for people to overcome that self doubt, right? Because that has, most of the time, is the biggest reason why you're not able to self brand yourself in a way that you really want to.
Okay, so I don't believe overcoming self-doubt. I'm not gonna come from a like a spiritual or personal place for this one. I really believe you'll overcome self-doubt when you learn your skill and you practice it so much that it's just like, okay, you know what I mean? So it's making sure that you're studying and you're constantly doing your own side projects to grow more mature in your skill set. Growing more mature in your skill set will boost your confidence, like you know what I mean, because before I was on the job way before I actually started school to be a data scientist. That like the programs weren't out, the data analytics programs weren't out. So literally it was on the job, access database, Excel, and PowerPoint. That was it. But I had no clue how to use Access when I got on the job, like at all. But I had to learn, and there was no training. So the same way that we depend on like YouTube and things like that now when we're on our own in tech, I was doing the same thing. But I would just, you watch those videos, and then it was repetitiveness, doing the same thing every day, that eventually made it like clockwork, and it becomes natural no matter what it is. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like even rocket science can become natural to a rocket scientist. You know what I mean? It's just because it's, you've learned the skill and you're doing it repetitive, and that's how you get confident. So whatever skill it may be, practice, do projects, join like hackathons and like teams that'll constantly keep you on your game, and then you'll feel that confidence because you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. I That has been a great advice. I'm kind of like finding words to explain what it means to me, because I personally have, I am I have a lot of self doubt in the kind of work that I've been doing and stuff, and that's not good. That's not going to take us anywhere. So that has been great. Thank you so much. Yeah. So that actually brings me to one of the most important question around self branding, and I know a lot of people want this question to be answered. Is how do you how what kind of, I mean, how do you let emotions not be a part of your personal brand? Or is it fine if you're considered as emotional, at work? Because showing emotions is being vulnerable in a professional setting,
Yes.
and I don't think our society is okay with
Wow, this is a hard question.
that.
Okay, so I'm very lucky, right? I'm very lucky because my data director is a woman, and she has kids. So that makes a big difference.
That changes the entire storyline.
That is the reason why um, I would stay in my position before giving up my position for better pay, because I know my management supports me. So that's one thing to think about. But um, emotions, I'm emotional. I'm an emotional person. I get upset. I get very upset when my code doesn't work. I go crazy. Like, and I explained that to my manager in the beginning. I was like, I have really bad anxiety, and sometimes code is my trigger and it's my healing space at the same time. So she just understands. So what I would do is try to keep a journal and stay calm, because at one time I would meditate in the car and stuff like that. She wasn't always my manager. I had to deal with a lot before she became my manager. So there would be times where I would go sit in the car. I'd read books. I read a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And
I love that book. I love that book. I have that right in front of me right now.
yes, mine is on
It's
my bed.
amazing. It is an amazing book. Yeah.
Yes. So it kind of it keeps you focused on what you're trying to do, and keeps you from getting distracted by anyone else's like agendas and ideas. You never know what people have going on, but if you can focus and stay in your own lane and get those skills and stay on top of those skills, there's nothing they can do. Like, they can't touch you, girl.
So would you recommend, I mean, if someone who is not so fortunate to have a emotionally effective management, or work in a culture who understands that emotions are a part of being human, what do you recommend them to do? I mean, um, is it still fine to show emotions?
Yes.
Hmm.
I think not showing emotions will kind of make you eventually cut off your abilities to just be your full self. So if I have to like cut off my emotions at work, the fact that I'm a woman, the fact that I have a child at home, the fact that, I have these things going on in my life with a male counterpart who honestly just doesn't understand. He doesn't understand why I'm out the door at 4:30 on the dot, because I have to go get my child. You know what I mean? Things like that. I try to communicate with those people, let them know what I have on my plate if they're willing to listen. If they're not willing to listen, I'm all about entrepreneurship. So, so my next step is like, what can I do for myself? If maybe you can find something on the side to focus on that you're building on, you're not so much concerned with that person that's on that job that's bothering you. Because guess what? You have a vision that's way bigger than anything that they can imagine. You don't have to tell them what you're working on or anything, but you have this beautiful distraction that lets you know, look, I'm working on this job to build my skill set for something else out here. And even though I have to deal with this difficult person, they will not affect my vision and where I'm going at the end. So if it ever came down to it, because one time I was working with two very difficult people, and it was so difficult that, I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but I had like column level access to a database. Okay, like I need to code like the whole database. Like I'm the data analyst, right? You know what I mean? But it was just because of being who I am and him not trusting me. Honestly, he just didn't trust me. He made things very difficult for me. So I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I read books, and I just made sure I stayed focused on myself, not let this person affect me, because again, I have a vision that's bigger than anything that he may think that I am. You know what I mean? And I'm sticking to that vision day in, day out. That's how I'm staying focused. But I've seen people on my job, because it can be very competitive. I work in the IT department, so you have the developers and yeah. So
All kinds of people.
yeah,
Yeah.
everybody is so smart that it's like everybody is trying to outsmart each other. We're all too smart in the same building. You know what I mean? So having a distraction outside of whatever that building is or whatever that person is can help you stay focused on yourself.
That's amazing. I completely love the part where you said that just control on what you can control, because other people's opinion and what they think about you are not a part of your career journey that you are on. So talking about cynical vibes, my next question is around this stigma that sometimes personal branding has, that if you have a personal brand, it means that you are you are kind of like selfish, or you're just full of yourself, and there is some kind of cynical idea around personal branding. What do you have to say to that?
Well, nobody's going to know how to find you if they don't know you exist. So someone may think it's cynical, but you actually have something to give to the world, and why would you not share that? It doesn't make sense to hold that in. It can't get you further. You know what I mean? You've been given a gift. If data analytics is your gift, that's an amazing gift. And if so, let's say you're scared to make videos, promote yourself, show how awesome you are. Doesn't that sound crazy? Like, I'm so scared to show how awesome I am. I used to be there, but that's when, again, I wasn't comfortable in my skills. I hadn't done enough projects to make myself feel like I'm ready to get out here. So it's a lot of preparation, just starting with knowing who you are, what makes you most comfortable, and then knowing your skill set, knowing what you provide and what value you give. It's like, I cannot turn that into anything bad if it's a win-win situation. Again, from the book, if you create a win-win mentality within your head, you're saying to yourself and to others, I'm giving you a service and you're going to get something beautiful out of it. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to give you I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give you value. I'm gonna give you value, and you're gonna get value. So when you look at it from that point, it's like, how can that be cynical? We're both gonna value from this, so it's a win-win. No cynical.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's like, if everyone, I think you mentioned this earlier in the conversation, I think if everyone has their own specific area of expertise, I think it's easy for the team to have a personal brand of its own and also succeed in the organization, and not just one person on the team, right? So that's a good point and a good answer to that question as well. My next question is around being a woman in STEM, or being an employee in STEM, right? STEM is just so technical. It's so hard. There is no room for creativity, or if you're not trying to be creative, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. If you're not creative naturally, it's not going to come easily if you're working in STEM, right? Because it's just so technical and so analytical per se. So how should one focus on personal branding if someone is not just data, but if someone is working in STEM, how should they approach personal branding?
So I think they should use, again, their interests, their primary interests, find out what's needed for whatever your role is in STEM. Find out the soft skills that they need, because since STEM doesn't have any, it's limited on soft skills. Focus on those soft skills and then bring that into your branding. That'll make you stand out, because there's a big difference between a a director or a trainer who uses just technical words, technical advice. But if you have a soft skill of like communication, not so much technical communication, but just communication, you can turn the most technical idea, model, and make it, understandable for anybody. So I think in STEM, it's important to highlight your soft skills. That's what's going to set you apart, because most people are going to have the education and the background and everything to do the job. But to be a leader, you're going to have to communicate and listen and, or be organizational. So that's what I would focus on.
I love that. I cannot agree to that answer more, because one of the things that I have learned early on in my career as well is that soft skills of every kind are so important. I mean, um, I'll just have a personal women in data plug here. Like, we always aim to balance out the kind of events that we do. If you look at the webinar structure that we have, we are not just focused on, okay, how to code, right? What kind of coding skills to have, but also something like this, where personal branding is not really a part of your day to day, or you're not thinking about it in a way. Soft skills, I'm sorry, are extremely important for someone who is in STEM, and they include like communication, pure presentation, the kind of personality you have at work, your EQ, and everything that comes in between. That's amazing, and I'm glad that you said that, because I think it's about time, and I know people who are fortunate enough right now in this situation to have some time for themselves and focus on themselves. They should absolutely aim for improving their soft skills. That's that's
Yes,
important. That's nice.
absolutely.
Do you have any books or recommendations or videos to look out for?
Um, I have a person actually. So I know a project manager who is a IT STEM project manager, but she has her own business introducing soft skills to people who are in tech backgrounds because it is just that important. And she's also doing a lot with children as well. So I take a lot of her content. It's called at Project Palma, Palma on Instagram. And I just take a lot of her advice. And I think character has a lot to do with it. Character has a lot to do with it. So if you, I learned from followership. I learned how to be a leader from being humble enough to follow. My first mentor was amazing. And I literally, oh, also, I have no IT background and I hate math. So I had to like really learn and like get somebody to take me under their wing, right? So once my character was corrected, where I said, okay, somebody can teach me something and I need to be coachable. That's also a soft skill, you know? So just different things like that, being coachable, being open to taking suggestions, learning how to lead, and learning how to like learn yourself. Learn yourself. It'll make you a better worker, a better mom, a better everything, a better woman. Just know yourself and stay within your boundaries.
Right. There are so many certifications out there that are right now easily available for people to use, and I do believe that learning should not stop with your postgraduate degree. It should continue, because I mean, data is such an ever growing field.
Hmm.
Every year at a conference, I'm learning something new, something that has never been done before, stuff like that. So that's crucial. I'm glad you have a mentor, and I'm glad you mentioned about having a good mentor. I think that has a lot to do with personal branding as well. Do you have any advice for people who are looking for mentors, and someone who does not have the right kind of mentor that
Yes.
they need?
So, number one rule is nobody has to agree to be your mentor. Like, you don't have to ask someone and get their permission. If I decide you're my mentor, you're my mentor. Thankfully, my mentor agreed to be my mentor. But even if she didn't, I was going to watch her every move. I was going to follow her and do everything that she did. I was going to take up her time and ask her questions. That's gonna make her my mentor. So you literally just find someone that you admire, and it's probably gonna be hard at first, but if you can at least get a entry position, find the most difficult person there. It's usually the person that's really mean and like doesn't want to talk to anybody, usually a database manager, but whatever. And if you just go in and you talk to him and you make him your friend, he'll teach you all kinds of stuff. I promise. I
Yeah.
promise. It's usually just that difficult person. Getting past that top layer with them, they're usually the one that you want to make your mentor.
So use stalking in a way that is beneficial to your career. Stalk them, but
Yes.
in a way that's beneficial and is legal. that's that's a good point. And sometimes, so for I believe that your mentor does not, like you said it, they don't really have to know that you consider them as your mentor, or someone that you follow on Instagram or social media that you really look up to, right? The values that they share and stuff like that, there is always so much to learn, and so much to learn from people as well. That's important. So I want to take a step back and talk a little bit more about personal branding. Do you believe that there has to be a set of principles that your brand should stand on? Um, and if so, what kind of principles would you suggest that they should be?
Yes, you should have principles. And I believe your main principle should always be integrity. You want to make sure that you can be trusted. So that that goes into a lot of things. That goes into your position as well as your work. So as far as your position, are you gonna make it to meetings on time? Does your manager have to be on top of you to get, I mean, we're all responsible people. So but when you're in remote positions, like can everybody trust you to take care of business? Once that's established and people trust you, then can they trust your work? Are you double checking? Are you making sure that you're not making your manager look bad? Don't make your manager look bad. Really, like if you cover them, they'll cover you. So double checking work before it's being reviewed and sent out to other people, creating that trust. Very important.
Agreed. I mean, being in data, there are going to be situations where you will overlook something or make a mistake, or there can be a silly Excel formula error that will
Hmm.
always come out, and that can be rough if the stakes are high.
Get in front of your problems. People make mistakes, like you just said. I've probably made all of those mistakes before. Come on, I still make mistakes. But I take responsibility. And another thing that you want to stand on in your personal brand is being accountable and taking responsibility when you messed up. It's
Mm,
okay. Like,
yeah.
either, there's a couple ways to work that out, before you go and even say that you made this mistake. Start brainstorming the solution so you can say, I made this mistake and then I did this to fix it. Next problem, moving on. Like, you brought it up and it's
Yeah.
already done,
Yeah.
versus just saying, I made a mistake, I don't know what to do. Like, at least try Slack Overflow or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, personally, I feel like you are talking to me personally, because mistakes are, like, no matter how focused you are at a job, they are bound to happen, and it's okay to forgive yourself first with making them. It's
Yeah,
okay to cry it out. If you want to cry it out, cry
yeah.
it out. But find solutions. I think being resourceful is super, super important if you are in the data field.
Yeah, because sometimes you can be left on your own, or like you can just I do a lot of report building. People get very creative and they're like, I want a report that's gonna and it's like, okay, I'll try. And it may not be what they want, and then you're gonna go back and forth, and it's just like mistakes are gonna happen. Those soft skills again, communication, because you have to know what the user wants. The user needs to know exactly what they want. They probably don't. So you're going to have to reach back out. You know what I mean? It's a bunch of project management, conflict resolution, integrity, um, trust, accountability, responsibility.
Mm,
What do you want to be known as? Like, who? Do you want to be known as an expert? Do you want to be known as, oh, she messed up that presentation in front of everybody, like, and preparation can help get ahead of those things as well. But then there's always those times where you can't prepare for everything, and it's just like, oof, I'm gonna do better next time, I promise.
yeah.
That's all I got.
I mean, it's there are times when you'll be presenting in front of senior manager, and just you lose that focus, or you let pressure get the best out of you, and that's still okay. I think what you are also saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in personal branding, the first step is to also understand that, um, accepting yourself is important. And even when you make mistakes, even when you screw up a big presentation or something like that, your acceptance has to be at a high level. And so
Yeah.
that's going to help you get back to, okay, fine, I made this mistake, I accept who I am, blah blah blah, blah, but let's get back to the point that really matters here, is that my integrity should not fall out and stuff.
Yes, yes. Um, yeah, absolutely. All of that. And it's just making sure that um, you're confident. But so finding yourself and figuring out what makes you happy, what makes you feel like you're successful, because success looks different for everybody.
Mm.
So figuring out what it looks like for you is going to really make you more comfortable in the workplace, in interacting with people and speaking. I get nervous like in the middle of a presentation, not at the beginning,
Yeah.
not at the end. The middle. It's like you're going now. Like, why are you? I do it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just like preparing and then having that confidence in myself. Like I know, I always tell myself, you know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about. Like you did all this homework. You did all these projects. Like you know what you're talking about. Trust yourself. You know, it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard, and I have heard this from a lot of other women as well, who are at various levels in their organization. Someone is at senior level and stuff like that. That they always feel that they are failing at their job, because or failing at everything that they do, and that's like, women are extremely harsh on themselves, right? And that's not good. That's not good for anyone around you, because you are capable of doing so much. You have a family, you have kids, and you have your own job and your own personal life. I think it's self branding is, and the principles that you just spoke about, those are important.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, that's
This is
funny.
awesome.
Yeah, like I mostly tend to get nervous in the first 5 minutes of a presentation, because that's when I realize, oh my God, people are looking at me. That's such a, like, of course they're going to look at me. My manager actually gave me a very good feedback, or not a feedback, but an advice on that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he said that before every big presentation, just set 30 minutes of your time to focus, to meditate, call up my mom, just do anything that brings you peace and calm just
Mm-hmm.
before you enter that room, because you have done uh, uh, so much data work, you're so close to the data, that it's important to take a step back, zoom out, and change your tone to the business language, right?
I'm gonna take that advice for
No,
sure.
no, I mean, no, anything that helps this, like, because that is important. The 30 minutes before every big meeting, I think that's when you tend to, hyper focus on what's going to happen, and just calling up your mom or your friend or anyone that you consider brings joy to you. Just
Yeah,
do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that advice.
I'm glad I could help. Now shifting some gears and just, sorry about the background noise. Shifting some gears and coming back to the current situation that we are in. I don't think people have been in this situation ever before, where cities and worldwide cities are just in lockdown, and people are struggling to focus on their family, their health, their personal life, but also focus on their career. I've heard so many stories about my friends losing their jobs, about people, getting fired and stuff. And it's a tough time to be
Yeah,
working in this situation. And it's not easy for anyone right now. I understand that. We all do, right? So do you have some advice for people, for someone who is looking for a job during this time, someone who has just lost their job?
yeah. So now is the perfect time to hone in on those skills. Take advantage of sites like Pluralsight, who's doing like free training all April. Take advantage of Udemy and anything that's skill based, skill related, and doing any projects that you can. Those projects and showing your impact from those projects, that's just evidence that you know what you're doing when you go into an interview or when you even fill out an application. And that's just, understanding and remembering that that interview process and that resume process is just to get you noticed, but you have to prove that you know what you're doing. And I've seen cases, in most cases here in Orlando, the way that they hire data professionals is everybody's primarily hired on a contract, and you have 6 months to prove that you know what you're doing, that you know your language, and that you know the software. So imagine how much money you can save, because I've seen 3 people not make it through that process. If you're able to just quickly present, this is exactly what I know and what I do, you're steps ahead of anyone else that hasn't even shown their actual like interactive skill set versus it being on paper. If you have a video, or if you have anything, any kind of write-up, white paper that shows any subject that you've worked on and you have an impact on, that's what you should be focusing on while you're not working. Also, when I wasn't working, I spent like the same 8 hours that I would spend on a job, searching for a job or like doing a project, so that I can build my portfolio, because stressing isn't going to help. If you notice that a lot of people like Google and Facebook, they're all saying they're slowing down on hiring. So it's not you necessarily. So don't beat yourself up right now. Now isn't a good time to beat yourself up. It's just the understanding of how business works, how the economy works, how the world works. A lot of things are going to be put on hold. Don't beat yourself up if you're not getting responses at this time, but take that energy and understand that it's the best time for you to just capitalize on more skills. Also, building chatbots. It's pretty easy. And like if you go on IBM Watson Assistant, you can learn how to build a chatbot, and now you have a cool new skill that, was free, and it's a really cool skill. So there's just a lot that can still be done, and don't beat yourself up right now. Now is not a good time to just blame yourself for not getting responses from jobs. So lean on that.
That's important. I mean, this actually ties back to your first point on just focusing on things that you can control at this situation, and just knowing that this is not temporary. It's not going to. I'm sorry. It is temporary.
Yes,
It's not permanent, and it's not going to stay the same forever. And things are going to get better. That's some good advice. And the good thing is that we're all in this together. So if you are having a difficult time at your work, it means that you're not the only one. There is billion other people who are going through the same thing.
I saw something really cool that I just wanted to bring up. Somebody did a really cool project like on my Instagram, and they were showing a data visualization of how hiring for various industries has changed over time from like 1970 to 2020. Awesome. So like you can see how manufacturing was huge in the 70s, and then how e-commerce just comes, and you see manufacturing going this way, you see e-commerce going this way. So it's like, if you do projects like that, you can find out like the best industries to get into. You use data analytics to find your own job.
And also, like in 1970, nobody had thought about e-commerce. So 1960, nobody had thought about something like e-commerce. So you never know what kind of new industry is going to come out of any situation, right? So just this is a great time for people who have the capacity and the ability to spend and work on themselves. It's a great time to do that. And that's good. Data visualizations are my favorite as well. They always tell some fun stories. I think my last question, as we enter the end part of this webinar, my last question is around advice for someone who is fortunate enough to get a job in this time, and someone who has just recently joined a new team, because we are just everyone is working from home right now, and it's not the best time to network, or ask someone for a coffee, or just get to know someone. So what advice do you have for people who have just joined a new team or a new organization?
My advice when joining a new team is to just sit back, observe, be quiet for a while. You know, um, learn how people work, learn the expectations of your new boss, learn the new expectations of your coworkers and how you can be of service to them. Show them how you're gonna, okay, so the way we do it, um, we kind of always discuss who's going to be hired as you're a skill. You're not a name. You know what I mean? So you're a skill. So it's like we're hiring a skill, and if you're able to come in and give a value to the team, show the value without being like some people can come onto a new team and they're so energetic and they're so excited and they want to make all these changes, right? But like you can't. So it's great to come in with all of that energy and all these new innovative ideas and ways of thinking, but it's best to sit back, watch how things are being done, ask people if they need help. That's another way of being trained without asking for training, is just asking people if you can help them, so they don't feel like you're getting on their nerves. They actually feel like you're helping them, but they're really going to have to stop and train you to do it anyway. So that's how I sneak training out of people. So do stuff like that, volunteer yourself, and be quiet for a little while. Bye.
That's good advice. I know people who have just recently joined the team are just ready to change the world and how things function and take on big projects. So focus on the low hanging fruits, I guess.
Yes.
So that brings me to the last part of this webinar, and the last part is just being grateful and thanking you for this time and sharing your knowledge and expertise with the rest of us.
I
Um,
love your organization. I think it's amazing. We have nothing like that here, so thanks.
you should start. We're
I
always
thought about it. I'm
accepting.
thinking about it.
No, honestly, we're always accepting new chapter, like new chapter openings and stuff like that. It's insane how effective a community can get. So I live in Philadelphia right now, and I started Philly chapter last year in 2019, and
Okay.
just this sense of community and the sense of love that you get from a virtual community as well
Mhm.
is incredible, and it's just so fulfilling. I I would recommend that. Just
I'm gonna talk to you more about this.
I'm happy to this organization. I know I tell this to a lot of people, but the kind of the self branding for me personally was the time before Women in Data and the time after Women in Data. I feel like my narrative has changed a lot.
Mhm.
um, and I tell this to everyone, because even like just doing a webinar like this, or just talking to someone from the community, is just incredibly useful, not just for myself, but I know for other people as well. So
Yes.
yeah. And I know personally I have all my notes. I got to learn a lot from this webinar, so thank you so
Yay.
much.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners and speakers, people who are watching this, are also taking down notes and have had a good experience so far. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, bye bye.
Bye.